Welcome to The Explainer. Today, we're unpacking the deep science of running injuries, and we're specifically targeting one of the most stubborn, frustrating issues out there. We're going to translate the absolute latest clinical, prehabilitation, and rehabilitation protocols into a clear, actionable roadmap so you can get back out on the track pain-free and stronger than ever. Okay, let's dive right into this. If you're a runner, you probably know that agonizing, sharp, throbbing pain of shin splints. It literally feels like your actual bones are splintering with every single stride you take. It's the worst. But here's the good news. It's highly unlikely that your bones are just naturally weak. The problem is actually a mechanical failure happening a little further down your leg. In the sports medicine world, shin splints are officially called medial tibial stress syndrome, or MTSS for short. But, let's drop the clinical jargon for a second. In high school biology terms, your bone is covered in a thin, super-sensitive outer layer called the periosteum. When you have shin splints, the muscles in your calf and foot are just frantically pulling and tugging on that sensitive outer layer of the shin bone, and that causes massive inflammation and pain. Section 1. The tug of war on your bone. To really fix this, we have to understand the biomechanical why behind all that pain. Think of what's happening inside your leg as this highly aggressive, high-stakes game of tug-of-war. And unfortunately, your poor shin bone is the rope. In a healthy, efficient stride, your foot lands, it absorbs the shock, and the muscles briefly relax. But if you have what's called excessive pronation, meaning your foot heavily rolls inward towards your arches when it hits the ground, it creates a total crisis. To stop your whole leg from collapsing inward, your deep calf and foot muscles have to violently pull against your shin bone to act as the emergency brakes. Over thousands of running steps, that repetitive traction causes microtrauma. Now, what's truly wild here is the sheer force we're talking about. 8. During running, the impact forces traveling up your leg can be up to 8 times your body weight. That is a massive amount of kinetic energy. Your muscles are supposed to act as heavy-duty shock absorbers for that force. But when they get tired, or when your foot rolls inward way too much, those muscles fail. And that huge 8 times body weight shock wave goes straight into your tibial bone. Section 2. Rehab. Rebuild your arch. So how do we actually fix it? Historically, the advice was always, just rest and ice it. But modern sports science tells a different story. Complete rest actually leads to tissue weakness. To make your bone handle the impact of running, we absolutely have to actively stimulate the tissues. We need to rebuild those foot and leg muscles, starting right at the foundation, your arch. Our first targeted exercise from the clinical protocols is designed to stop that inward foot roll entirely. We do this by building serious strength in a specific muscle called the tibialis posterior, which is essentially the suspension cable holding up your medial arch. And the best part? All you need is a tennis ball. Let's walk through the execution here. You're going to stand barefoot on flat ground and place a tennis ball right between your heels, specifically right between your ankle bones. Now, lightly squeeze that ball. That squeeze, that is the secret. It forces that specific arch-lifting muscle to fire up immediately. While keeping that squeeze, raise your heels up, hold it at the very top for 2 full seconds, and then lower them down nice and slowly over a 3-second count. You'll want to knock out 3 sets of 15 repetitions every other day. Section 3. Rehab. The soleus shield. Let's move to the next phase and see how we build our defense. Once the arch is supported, we need to build a literal muscular shield over the shin bone so it can safely absorb that massive 8 times body weight impact force we talked about earlier. This brings us to exercise 2, the bent knee calf raise. Now, you might be thinking, hey, I already do calf raises, but doing them with a bent knee changes the anatomy completely. When your knee is straight, the big, bulky upper calf muscle does all the work. But when you bend the knees, you completely turn off that upper muscle and shift 100% of the load directly onto the deep lower calf muscle. That's called the soleus. And that soleus is the true shock absorber for your shin. To train it, face a wall for balance and bend both knees deeply. We're talking about 80 or 90 degrees here. You must maintain this exact knee bend the entire time. Now, raise your heels off the floor by pressing powerfully through your big toes. Hold it at the top for 2 seconds and slowly lower back down. Again, 3 sets of 15 reps every other day. Building up this deep soleus shield is exactly what protects the skeletal bone of your tibia from that microtrauma. Section 4. Rehab. Stop the wobble. All right, we've got the arch supported and the bone shielded. Now for the final piece of the kinetic puzzle, stabilizing the entire leg so your knees and ankles don't cave inward and wobble around during a run. The absolute crucial point here is that everything in the leg is connected. If your hips and pelvis are weak, your knee drops inward, which forces your foot to roll inward, triggering that whole painful tug of war on your shin. We prevent this lateral wobble with our third drill, the single leg balance. It sounds deceptively simple, but trust me, it's incredibly effective. Take your shoes off and stand on the target leg. Keep a slight athletic bend in that knee. The absolute most important part here is your pelvis. Keep those hips perfectly level. Do not let the non-standing hip drop toward the floor. Focus on stabilizing that foot arch and hold this for 30 seconds. This wakes up your lateral hip stabilizers and really connects your brain to your foot. Once 30 seconds feels easy, fold up a towel, stand on that unstable surface, and prepare to feel those muscles burn. Section 5, Becoming Impact Ready. Now that we have the mechanical solutions, we have to talk about integration. How do you safely bring this newfound strength into a routine without accidentally causing a massive flare-up of your shin pain? Well, the clinical protocols give us a brilliant framework for this called the pain monitoring model. We've all been trained to think any pain is bad pain, right? But during rehab, a little discomfort is actually acceptable. On a scale of 0 to 10, when doing medium load exercises like your calf raises, a pain level of 2 or 3 is totally fine. Even when you return to high-load running, a 4 or 5 out of 10 is acceptable during the activity. But here is the golden rule. Whatever symptoms you feel, they absolutely must reset and return to your normal baseline by the time you wake up the very next morning. If you wake up with worse pain, you did too much and you need an extra rest day. Let's quickly recap this empowering 3-part mental checklist so you can build your impact-ready legs. Step 1, grab that tennis ball and do your heel-ups to rebuild the medial arch and stop the foot roll. Step 2, sink down into those bent knee raises to build up your deep soleus muscle, forming a shock-absorbing shield for your shin bone. And step 3, master the single leg balance to stop the lateral wobble and keep your entire stride perfectly aligned. If there's one major takeaway from the modern science here, it's this modernized mantra. Don't just rest, rebuild the shield. Complete rest just leaves you with the exact same weak tissues that caused the injury in the first place. You have to actively stimulate your muscles and tendons with these targeted controlled loads to force them to remodel and grow stronger. You can't just wait on the couch and hope the pain magically disappears. Which leaves us with the ultimate question. The next time you feel that awful ache in your lower legs, are you just gonna rest your shin splints? Or are you gonna actively rebuild your capacity to run? Grab that tennis ball, build that shield, and take true ownership of your running health today. Thanks so much for joining me on this explainer, and I'll catch you next time.